Good evening, Free Enterprise fans, and welcome to tonight's Eblan Elixir League race. I am Baka Shinobi, and I am joined by Y2 Sky. How are you doing, Y2 Sky?
I got to tell you, I couldn't be more excited to see this matchup tonight. Our another one of our Eblan Elixir League twin casts, which twin casts are pretty common in Final Fantasy IV, but instead of Paolo and Forum, you get me and Baka Shinobi. Take that as you will. I'm particularly excited. I've been loving this twin cast format because we have some of our tournament mainstays like Klopper and Fly Goes Fly's actually been around for a few seasons as well. But with this twin cast, we have actually two matchups from the same team pairing going up against each other. And what I really love that's done is that's shown us, it's really showcased some of the newer runners like Softenum and Noob Tree who are on their sophomore seasons. And everybody's been putting on a great show so far. So yeah, I'm excited for a fantastic race.
I expect this to be a fantastic race. On the left side of the screen, we have the representatives from Blue Moon Dew, Noob Tree, and Fly Eagles Fly 72. And on the right side of the screen, we have Klopfer and Softenum from Golbez, and Golbez. And another lovely representative we have on this team is our hero of Edward. Why would we be so happy to see Edward Y2 Sky?
I'm assuming you're saying happy in sort of a dubious manner, and that's definitely true. An Edward hero can give you a relatively tough start, mostly because of his agility growth through levels. He can become quite the speedy boy, and with no cursed rings on this flag set, you don't really have a lot of good ways to lower his agility. So you are going to have a fast anchor whether you like it or not. On the flip side, if you find that spoon early, you have somebody that can carry you pretty much easily into the mid game as long as you can keep him protected. And with shops being S wild and treasures all being money, it's a good chance you're going to find some good defensive gear like Crystal Rings or Glass Hat to kind of defend him despite his low HP pool. So double-edged sword with Edward.
I very much so agree. Edward will be very entertaining for us and very stressful for our runners. We don't have to worry about Edward losing experience because with the C hero flag, the hero always gets experience. The hero always has to go and be progressing, so you can't even Dan the poor Edward and try and keep them down. They're just going to go and keep getting faster and faster, even if they're going and examining the floor very closely.
Yeah, but thankfully our runners do not have to worry about that for a finals Aromas fight. Because as you can see, we have 8 objectives up here. Runners only have to complete 6 out of 8 of them, but instead of winning the crystal, the runners will finish their game outright when they complete that 6th objective. So you don't really have to worry about it much for Aromas, but if you see some of the objectives, Feymarch King, Masamune Altar, they're all spots you really don't want to fast anchor in. So it's kind of balanced itself out quite well, and it makes for very exciting fights and very exciting races.
And speaking of exciting races, this one is about to start as we are going to go and see who our second character is. Oh my goodness. The fast anchor is going to go Darkness Crystal with that Telestart. Very interesting. We can't go and do a D-Machine grind to go and fix all of our troubles because we also have a flag turned on that means that random encounters don't give experience. Only trap chest encounters and bosses will. But there's still a lot to love from that Darkness Crystal.
Yeah, definitely. A Darkness Crystal means an immediate check for a third character is free. Not guaranteed though. The no dupes flag is on, so if the character at the Lunar Dice is Tella, that is a zonk as far as the character check, and you still have 2 people on your team. Good thing about Tella too is, again, with the shop set up the way we have them, you can find a Stardust route on the overworld. So if you get enough money, again, Tella's going to carry you in ways that you might not expect.
And speaking of ways, Tella carrying you in ways you might not expect, another thing about the shops is that you can't go and get J items from them. So Tella's Reptar spells will be very helpful after Ordeals. Speaking of very helpful, Noob Tree looking in Baron in, seeing a Sid. Going to be a little slow because Sid is not great speed growth, but also a D-Mist is there, so that's another key item check.
Yeah, nice to get a 2-for-1 there pretty early at the Baron Inn. Another character that's very useful in this flag set because of the gear that you can find in the shop. Sid's agility, unlike Edward's, is relatively easy to fix with Artemis bows and the like.
I agree. Those Artemis bows can be 10 agility, can be pretty massive early game, and just Sid's growth is pretty weak, but 10 agility is this very strong way to bring up that slow stat. And we do see that both players from Team Blue Moon do going and launching the whale right away, while Golbez, and Golbez are going and looting and getting money. Interesting to see the divergence of priorities, but I imagine it's also not super common where you have a team this weak and access to Darkness Crystal. So I'm curious to see how things work out for our runners.
Yeah, I think I like the play of going to the Darkness Crystal. Intel on the characters is very important as you're doing your initial pass to your shops. And we got a Cecil. That's a very nice character to have, especially we already have a Tellus. We had some things to go for Ordeal. Now you're going to start to see the runners try to beeline that as soon as they're able to take chess.
Yeah, though that Cecil's a bit of a double-edged sword, because Paladin Cecil is extremely strong. There is wildish treasure on, which means that those trap chests in Eblan Castle in particular are very likely to have a nice, big, crunchy holy sword for Cecil. But we have to be able to get there, and this team is not going to go and be beating up Mad Ogres and Liliths very easily. So how they get up through ordeals and how they get going is going to be a very important question for the runners.
Yeah, the key is going to be the shops and what they roll on the overworld. If we hit Artemis Bow or Stardust Rod in the overworld shops, we're going to have a pretty easy go of it. We should be able to get through ordeals without too much difficulty. If the gear is not so nice, then our choices get a lot more limited, because you're gonna have to get through that Baron Inn or Mount Hobbs to even have a shot at another character. Speaking of which, Softnum is going up Hobbs to give us knowledge of our next character check.
And I believe we also got knowledge that one of the Kaipo characters was one of the the Kaipo character in the bed with Sand Ruby, which is an objective that our runners are incentivized to go there, is one of the twins from what I saw. Also, to answer a question from chat, can teammates communicate? No, they cannot. These are two same seed but independent 1v1 races of just both players from two teams going and playing against one player from each team.
Yep, definitely. And Baka, we've got our first really big shop contribution. Troya has both glass hats and Artemis bows.
Oh, yeah, we've been hyping up that Artemis bow, and I think we're going to see a lot of good use from that. And that glass hat will definitely go and help make our rather low HP team a bit less squishy.
Yeah, glass hat's generally regarded as kind of an early game item only in standard flag sets of past formats. Glass hat bumps up a couple tiers to kind of A plus, almost S tier in this flag set, because again, the physical defense in the high physical attack spots are where your end game is. And you don't have that Zeromus that just dodges all the physical attacks. So the glass hat is useful throughout the entire seed, unlike in standard flag sets.
Oh yeah, and speaking of useful for maybe just the early game, we did find dancing daggers in the vanilla location of Mist. So not quite that Artemis bow pickup that other runners have found, but Klopfer is going to go and have some early damage for Edward through that dancing dagger.
Yeah, if you get the money to get the Artemis bow and the glass hats, you find some usable arrows, mute, poison, charm, any of the mid to high tier arrows will do. That Edward's probably going to carry you through the ordeals and get that paladin online.
Yeah, and it's extra important for Edward to be able to carry through ordeals, because a twist of Sea Hero is normally you always take your full party into all the fights. However, on ordeals, only the hero can go in and face the trial alone.
Definitely. Berserk now pointing out in chat, dancing dagger probably gets you through ordeals. Yes, it does. The interesting thing about this flag set is, again, the gear power is high, the shot power is high. Just because you can get through a check or several checks doesn't mean you're going to get through them fast or faster than your opponent. So I have seen a lot of races decided where runners will find one high tier item that another one does not, and so yeah, it's interesting to watch as the race unfolds. Do sooner checks win the game, or do more shop checks win the game?
Yeah, that is definitely one of those. It's I mean, you see that hesitation on Noob Truth's side. There's the Artemis boat for 80,000 gil. That is almost all of Noob Truth's money, and Noob Truth turns it down, went to the armor shop and found headbands and glass hats, which they choose to pick up instead. They might end up doing more looting, but with Team Money, you will get a bunch of money each time you loot, but each time you loot is time you're spending not doing checks, which, if your opponent, there is the balance between, do you go for power or do you go for checks? And you know that hitting treasure chests will just slowly get you closer to more power, but won't be able to go and be a big spike like you have on normal treasure flags.
Yeah, I think generally the meta that's shaken out so far this season has been, okay, find something that will get you through the overworld checks in a timely fashion. Then once you kind of had a little more knowledge of your characters, your early key items, then your trap chests are going to kind of supplement that and give you that give you those high dollar checks that are going to then fill out your coffers and allow you to go get the higher tier items.
Yeah, that's you're going to be going into Eblan Castle eventually, almost certainly, unless you find some very convenient types of key item, or key item pulls, so you don't need to go and search through a lot of trap chests. And you can't go and know where your trap chests are because those locations are randomized, so instead you're just going to be picking up a fair amount of money from those high value locations as well.
Klopper showing us Stardust Rod in Silvera, opting not to pick it up, gonna instead grab some Cure 3s and head out. He may be satisfied with Artemis Bow and Glass Hat, and may just be holding on to money for later checks. But yeah, not taking that Stardust Rod for the Tella.
Yeah, the Stardust Rod is Softnumber is going and choosing to pick it up. It's easy to go and lean one way or another because Tella's slow, Edward's going to be fast. Not going to be able to go and get a lot of turns with Tella. It's a great item to go and use early on. Use it as an item, it does several hundred damage to all enemies on the screen. It can go and get through a lot of fights early. But Tella's not going to be getting a lot of turns very quickly, so that might be something where there's thoughts of how much use is this going to be able to actually bring to the team.
Yeah, and it's good knowledge to have if you later have a Palom or Iridia to be able to go back and grab it. So the knowledge is good, but yeah, Artie Glass Edward is going to be the name of the game here in the overworld, it looks like.
Yeah, we do see black belts as well on sale in Fabul, which those black belts giving 5 strength to be pretty important for Edward, who does not have strong strength growth, but every 8 points of strength does give you an attack multiplier, which early on, those attack multipliers can be very big with things like Artemis bows and Artemis arrows.
Thank Claw for showing us the Hobbs check. Sid with Dark Imps. I like this if I'm a runner here because now you're not necessarily having to rush the Baron in for another character. The Dark Imps, which can be really punchy in a lot of spots because they get 3 attacks at you instead of 1, are at an early game spot where they're not really going to hurt you that badly.
Yeah, and because no free bosses is on, it means you don't regret seeing them early, where, as you said, they got 3 hits every time, and you can't just have, say, telecast stone on them or throw an hourglass. You're going to have to actually fight them somewhat fairly.
And you see the power of that glass hat. Dark Imp's punching Edward, but only doing 1 damage, even with that low HP pool. Not a problem, and Klopper's through.
Yep, got another character, and big power switch for the team, because while Sid does have poor strength growth, or excuse me, poor speed growth, he has great strength growth. Speed is going to go and be a bit of a weak point for Sid, but early on, Edward doesn't have very strong strength or strong speed either, so Sid is going to be able to do a fair amount of carrying.
And Softnum showing us who is invading Fabul, and it is the Maga Sisters. This is actually a little rough here. The Stardust Rod hopefully can get him through, but yeah, neither character at this point is going to be able to tank those Delta attacks.
Yeah. Ooh,
Yeah, getting them out of play. Stardust Rod was queued up, I think, just before the remedy came out, though, so it's not going to. Yep. So it's going to take one more to take them down.
and a charm goes out on Tella, which is very unfortunate. It's not going to get broken by this fire one because it requires a physical hit to go and get broken. And we need Tella to survive long enough to not end up wiping the team, which is going to be a little tricky when Lit 1 still does about a quarter of Tella's health and damage.
Yeah, this is not looking good. I don't know if Charm will actually reset itself or it requires a hit, but I've never waited that long to figure it out.
I don't think Charm. My experience with Charm is that it does not reset unless it is you are physically hit or cure it some other way.
Yes, Softnom's got to reset out of this. Klopper attempting the same fight, but has the Sid in his pocket, and Sid's 788 hit points are going to tank those Delta attacks a lot better.
L is also tanking it pretty well. Poor Eddie is not really doing that great, and Softman has reset, while Fly Eagle is going in, launching the hovercraft and Dempsey in, and maybe going to the Antlion Cave, which I do not believe we've seen yet.
Antlion's a pretty good early check to do with that starting Tella because his Tella comes with exit straight out of the gate, so you'll be able to basically cut the walk in half.
Exit is a very, very relevant spell in these races, just because not having to walk out of places means it's easier to decide if you want to go and take some early checks. That walk out of Antlion, while not terribly onerous, is not terribly speedy either. So anything to go and speed that up is helpful.
Yeah, and with K-Trap on, if you get the hook, that opens up trap chests for potential key items in Eblan Cave and the upper battle section of the tower. But because Force Magma is on, unless it's an objective, you're not really going to go launch the Falcons, though. And that's all. If you don't have that exit for that dive, it is a long, long walk back out. And yes, I know this from experience.
Experience is a wonderful teacher. Just, maybe sometimes you don't want to experience back attack plague in a siege where you have a high anchor, which maybe our runners will not experience, so everyone here won't learn why it's such a terrible thing.
Oh, but then that's such a fun experience for chat. Softnum going back to Hobbs, realizing, yep, Tella's got that Stardust Rod. We can make sure we're working the Dark Imps there, and hopefully next time Softnum goes back to the Bull, we'll have a little bit better luck. Fly Eagles also taking it on. Klopper looked like he peeked Baron in, but did not take the fight because it's a big Sid.
Yeah, Baron In's a bit of a long check. There are two fights there. That Demist is another key item check after you go and defeat it and go to Mist Village, but there's another fight afterwards which has high physical attack power, which could be somewhat risky for Klopper's team.
Okay, I'm seeing what's happening here. I think Klopper's wanting to go get that main character intel kind of before doing all those checks, which I like this because then he's going to get knowledge of that Cecil. It's going to make him change his plan to go to Ordeal to get that Paladin online. Yeah,
and there may also be some consideration of, do I want to go and just try and dump some experience on this team with the Lunar Path chest that's right nearby? That's a lot of experience to go and put on this team, but Cecil will go and make really good use of that experience after he becomes a Paladin.
Yeah, the hairdryer's chest, as we affectionately call it in the community, is definitely one of my favorite places to try and get that bonus slingshot XP if I'm able to do so. It can definitely catapult you to where you're going to do most of your checks up until and kind of carry you to the end game almost.
Yeah, another question I have is, will Klopper go and scout the Cave Bahamut boss? It is an objective that is technically available, but a little bit of a walk. Still, it is a boss that, if it's not too onerous, you can go and get some easy experience there. But when they're free bosses, I think Klopper thinking there's not going to be any easy experience there. Let's go back to Earth and get the Cecil online.
Yeah, with Beano free, really the only boss that you can feasibly take at Cave Bahamut at these levels is the King Queen Eblan. Yeah, you still lose the script kill, and you still have to kill them with damage. But they still do the very low magic attack power, Fire 2, Fire 1 attacks. So they're still generally considered free, but again, it's that whole just because you can doesn't mean you should. You still have to chew through thousands of hit points in order to kill them. So
3 is
yeah,
not necessarily fast. But both Klopfer and Soft Number are going up Ordeals. Nearly in sync, though. Soft Number does not have the Cecil that Klopfer does. And still, getting value on Tella with a Stardust Rod, getting access to those tier 3 elemental spells can be a pretty big gain.
yeah, it's not going to surprise me here to see Golbez and Golbez teammates in lockstep. Part of their practice regime, and I know this I'm also on the team, is team async, and so yeah, I'm not going to be surprised to see some lockstep routing here between these two.
Cecil is also guarding the way onto Ordeals, though a bit outside of the normal location. Also,
Yeah.
Cecil is doing a little bit less damage than he is in that normal location.
Yeah, a little bit of French vanilla never hurt anybody, and it's fantastic at this spot. This is so far shaping up to be a very runner-friendly seed. Dark Imps at Hobbs, DKC here at the Mylon and Friends spot. If I don't think I've seen Crystal Swords or Excals yet, but yeah, this is looking very runner-friendly right now.
Edward Tella's start with Edward as a hero. You heard it here first. Runner-friendly seed.
Hey, just like I said, yeah, Edward Tella, and you can buy Artemis bows and Stardust rods. It's not, it's not really, that kind of, Catalyte start is not really a thing in this life set, unless the shops just don't play in your favor.
And Miria Chan from chat is pointing out there's an Excals for sale in Mysidia, though I think the Artemis bow will still be a better choice early on because Artemis bow, in addition to giving strength, also gives speed, which is very, very helpful with a fast hero. You can either make your hero incredibly fast, and speaking of incredibly fast, Artemis arrow is also very good against Paladin, who is a dragon.
Yep. Several bosses in our lineup in Free Enterprise are dragons, and so those Artemis arrows can be very strong. Also, Wyvern, D-Lunars, but surprisingly enough, not D-Mist and not Bahamut. Why? Don't ask me. It's called 1990s video game programming.
The summons, not dragons. That's definitely it, right? But Noob Tree and Klopfer both threw that Paladin, and both are sending Edward into the chamber, though Noob Tree does not have the Sid from Mount Hobbs.
Yeah, but I think Klopfer and Noob Tree both have that Edward very well equipped. We got a Moon Sparkle, though, that could throw a wrench into things, but it is just Plague, so yeah, Dancing Dagger, arrows, gonna make a pretty short work of that.
But Count, however, is going to be a bit of a problem here, as that only did 300 damage, and we need to go and kill this Plague before that Count ticks down, and it's the Dancing Dagger low road for Klopfer, which is very unfortunate. Meanwhile, Noob Tree was able to get through that on the first try, it seems.
Now this makes me wonder, did Klopfer also forego the Artemis bow, or does he just have it on Sid? Oh no, he has it on Sid because he got through Paladin. Yeah. I think you definitely have to take the time to re-equip your hero here. The Artemis bow is going to give you probably it's gonna let you act at least once, if not twice, before count.
And the arrows will do extra damage to Paladin, Plague, because in addition to being effective against dragons, arrows in general are effective against flying enemies, which Plague does count as, so that will be extra damage.
Yeah, I think you're going to see Klopfer change gear out this time, and very wisely goes back and takes the safety save.
Oh, and it is a samurai bow, not an Artemis bow.
I really don't hate that here because, you're not quite going to get as many turns off before count, but then count's also not going to just fly down if it goes off.
Yes. Yes. There's agility shenanigans for this, but the simple matter is your anchor, as we call them, determines the speed of everyone else, and it always takes 5 ATB ticks for your anchor to go and get a turn, barring other people preventing them from being further ahead in queue. Plague's count ticks down at the rate of once per ATB tick. So once count is on you, you are only going to get 5 ATB ticks for your next turn. So it is very, very scary. But Edward is doing more than enough damage to two-shot this plague and get through it.
Meanwhile, Noob 3 showing us the Baron in check, and it is a Octomam behind the D-Mist.
That Octomam, hard-hitting boss. However, an important thing about it is each time you hit it 2 to 3 times, it loses one of its tentacles and becomes slower, which can be very helpful in these fights.
Yeah, this spot's pretty slow to begin with, and Noob Tree's Edward has that Artemis bow, so just lots of shots flying before Octomam is really going to be able to do anything.
Yep, and going to go and cast Berserk on that Edward, just get that damage out.
Yeah, this is a lesser-known reason I like going Ordeals early for Tella, especially if I'm not seeing White Mages in the early character deck. Tella's going to give you all the White Mage utility things that you need from that Ordeal script.
Yeah, and Baron in having the Adamant, that is 1/2 of Objective 5, so not a terrible pickup for Noob Tree. And we do have another key item in the form of that D-Mist. So if you're like me, 50-50 chances whether or not you remember to go and check D-Mist for any period of time less than halfway through the seed.
Yeah, and again, if I'm speaking from the wearing my runner's hat again, D-Mist can be difficult to remember to go check in these flags, just because the trap chests are going to give you so many other locations to think of, especially if you're underground and you kill the D-Mist and you have a swath of other checks to go make underground before you go back up. It can be pretty easy to forget.
Yeah, and Baron in, I always forget because it's the first fight. The second fight gives you the character and the key item, and that's where you're usually going and having a change in your thinking. And right, there was a D-Mist that I went and killed.
Speaking of that, Noob Tree did not check that D-Mist. He is going up with Tower of Zot without the Earth Crystal. Baka, why would a runner go up Tower of Zot without the Earth Crystal?
Well, sometimes people are desperate and like to go and check bosses, but in this case, there's a trap chest up the Tower of Zot. There's a flame dog somewhere in this tower that we can find, and that can have a key item for us. And sometimes it's the magma key, which is your way underground. Also, to answer a question from Silver Leaves, in these flags, what we have, the Forged Legend is not required to get the Excalibur. It is required to go and be an objective, a quest to complete. So, I cannot remember if by default the flags are on, but I do believe we are going to get, we are on Sea Hero. My brain was lacking for a second. Instead of getting the Excalibur for forging the Adamant and the Legend Sword, we're going to get a legendary weapon for our hero, which Edward has access to a number of pretty strong weapons, to be honest.
Yeah, Edward having access. I don't know if Edward gets the Perseus arrows. I haven't seen that happen, but Edward does have 2 special hearts that he can get. One of which is very powerful and just gives him a lot of damage. The other, kind of a double-edged sword. It's powerful, but it's also boosting agility. Not what you want late game.
I mean, Loki's heart technically does bonus damage to any type of enemies. I would actually be fine with, sure, I will let the rest of my team not do anything. Eddie, rock out and go and show everyone these rocking tunes that do thousands of damage to dragons and ogres and whatnot.
Scala Kitty set me straight here. Perseus are exclusive to Rosa. Thank you.
And just checking it in, Fly Eagles and Softnum. Softnum has gone and gotten through the 2 bridge fights and is now going filling plague with arrows, while Fly Eagles is going up the mountain but has gotten the magma key from a location that Softnum has not gotten yet.
And Cloffer, meanwhile, is doing the Eblan trap chest. This is a very popular play after you, especially after you transform Cecil and Ordeals. You want levels on him. We do have magma keys, but other potential key item checks, they're kind of burning a hole in your mind. You want to go check those. Eblan will give you all of that: key item checks, money, experience. It's a very popular stop. A few minutes into a race for runners. We see his Cecil swinging an Excal already too.
Yep, that exhale is it's doing good work. Just crunching through those Mad Ogres while Nuptree is checking Demus and is finding a defense sword. Not as good as an Excalibur, but still a very strong weapon for Cecil. Oh, Cecil has Crystal, not XL, even more power.
I think one of the earlier trap tests must have been a crystal.
That is just all the more reason to love going to Eblan, going and getting trap chest on wildest flags that are very, very likely to have holy swords for Cecil. So getting one of those early and then getting a crystal sword out of it. Yeah, Cecil, I believe, is going to be the real hero of the seed, while Eddie is playing second fiddle, unfortunately.
A bard playing second fiddle. I love it. Yeah, and the holy swords are have really come flying in this flag set because there is a lot of high percentage tier 8s in these trap chests, and the no adamant flag is back on. So unlike Adamant Cup, where you have the odds of getting an adamant armor, now all that's remaining in tier 8 is crystal sword and Excalibur. So if your trap chest rolls with tier 8, you are getting a holy sword for Cecil.
And if you have a Cecil and a Holy Sword, you have a lot of pain going out to your enemies. Just look at those crunchy damage numbers coming out of Cecil.
One of my favorite sound effects in the game is that crunch crunch. That the Black Cat and Lamias are not long for this world. So hopefully we will see what this key item check here is. Noob Tree not far behind Clopper. Gonna find some goodies for Cecil shortly, and yeah, we're gonna get a few swings into that defense sword, but we're not gonna see many.
Defense sword unfortunately going impaling before the true best superior defense, killing all of your enemies before they can hurt you.
Oh, an interesting peek from Soft Numb at the Hummingway shop as a Bahamut summon. We don't have Iridia yet, but if we do, the S-Wild No J item shop guarantee that a Bahamut summon is somewhere in the world. And Soft Numb just found it.
Yeah, Bahamut's a pretty nice spell for Iridia early on. Not quite as fast as a Crystal Sword, but still great AoE damage, and with all the trap chest fights you need to take, that might be a consideration.
Yeah, as powerful as Crystal Sword Cecil is, he's still a little slow at getting through this trap chest in Sylph Cave in particular, where there are formations of like 6 and 7 enemies. And then that's where an AoE caster like Paladin with Quake or Iridia with Leviathan or Bahamut are powerful. And it's definitely something a runner likes to find in this black set.
You can see that being a very juicy item. And we do see Flat Eagles getting through that juicy Paladin fight, making their way through Ordeals, while Soft Number is going and heading back to the Blue Planet with their fresh Paladin Cecil in tow, as they have already cleared Ordeals.
Yeah, also runners really kind of converging on this one spot. Noob Tree's up a few key item checks from some of the other runners. But yeah, other than the Darkness and Magma Key, not many other key items found. You have the Adamant Rock, but then Darkness and Magma Key found, the world's pretty wide open.
Yeah, we have, of all of our objectives open, we have 4 accessible, so they only need 2 more objectives to get become accessible for people to be in theoretical go mode. It's theoretical because it's a little hard to go and beat some of these spots at level 20 or 30. Yeah,
we definitely should be seeing attempts this seed, I would think, though, depending on when we find the other key items, because we've got Cecil, we had a means to back row him, we've got a Crystal Sword, we've got Glass Hat. That setup can go a long way towards clearing those end-game checks early.
Yeah, Crystal Sword, Cecil, Glass Hat can definitely go, and not many things survive Cecil. And Cecil survives a lot of things with a Glass Hat because he is very, very beefy. That said, the complication of the eddy anchor does make Cecil a bit less, shall we say, holy bladed chainsaw and a bit more of a holy bladed, kind of sputtering chainsaw. Still cut through everything, but it's going to take a bit longer because we can't go and leverage agility in our favor as much.
Yeah, definitely. Meanwhile, we see Klopper giving us our first look underground. Gonna hit the Tomarin check shops. Could be looking. We're definitely looking for probably cabins. Heal and tents also not bad. One thing I would be looking for in shops underground is crystal rings. We definitely need crystal rings on our other characters to offset Eddie's agility and get more turns.
Yeah, that +5 agility from the crystal ring is very big.
One trick you might see our runners do with the loadouts some of them have, especially if they bought an Artie bow, you can also see, so the way agility is set up in the game, the agility calculations and ATB and all that, that's only calculated once at the start of a fight. So a trick you might see a runner do is enter into battle with Cecil holding the Artemis bow instead of arrows, then switch out to the crystal sword before resurrecting him up. So he has the bonus agility, but is swinging the crystal sword instead.
Yeah, and that is... I can see that being a very tempting thing with this Eddie here. Eddie, Cecil around level 45 has 28 agility, which is still pretty speedy for most characters. Eddie around those levels is in the mid to high 30s, if I'm not mistaken. If he's not already inching closer to the 40s. Eddie is very quick. Very fragile, but very fast.
Yeah, and just watching how the runners are going to try to set their party and turn order up to kind of counteract that will definitely be it can definitely be something that decides the race.
That is, with the focus being on getting through your checks rather than going and getting prepared for Zeromus, there is a bit of, well, how much power do I need to get through these checks? And it's not going to go and end up saving you later on, as we don't need to clear all the difficult moon bosses. Any moon bosses or Feymarch bosses you need to fight will only go and give you some random item. No progress will be found on that other than completing the objectives. So there are the crystal rings that you were talking about. But yeah, now we're in the decision tree point of, do we go for checks or do we go for getting powerful? And Klopper looks to be going for doing checks.
Yeah, putting the crystal rings on Cecil and Sid. We have a Yang dancing around behind the dwarf throne.
Unless I'm mistaken, this spot has some decent physical attack power, so that will hurt a bit. And unfortunately, because no free bosses are on, Yang will just punch and kick until he is good and tired. Not even getting hit by Cecil after the second kick will go and encourage him to stop.
Yang, definitely one of the tougher bosses in this flag set. I think we should be pretty well set up to take it on. Only doing 1 damage to that glass hat Cecil.
Not even using any other action with Sid other than defend. Kick. Not really even hurting anyone. 58 damage to back Rotella is still meaningful damage to Tella, but not enough to take him down, and Karate is already gone.
Yeah, this showcases the power of the items that you can buy in the shops. And Klopper just threw this fight like it's nothing. Let's see what's at our Golbez spot. A blue robe. This gets interesting.
Blue robes are one of 2 fights. A rather long and verbose water hag, or a much less concentrated gauntlet fight, where now our runners have to go and face 5 enemy packs back to back. Actually a bit awkward with this team, to be honest, because you don't have great AoE. You have the Stardust Rod, which is decent, but I don't think it's going to one-shot everything. Oh, my mistake.
Yeah, it's going to one-shot probably the Dimps and the Armadillo and Tortoise. The little black lizards that come up, not so much. I think those have closer to 850, 900, I think.
Yeah, those might end up just falling before the might of the crystal sword.
But even still, the Dwarf Castle here is a great check on this flag set. The warp glitch is on, and Tella going through Ordeals means he has access to warp. So this becomes a check for 2P items.
That is very helpful because there are no boss hunts. So by going and skipping Sealed Cave, well, okay, I guess there is technically one boss hunt. It's the Demus that we already know where it is. So skipping Sealed Cave is a pretty nice thing to go and have on this flag set.
And speaking of that Demus, a lot of time has gone by, and I don't think Nutree's done that check.
Nutree did do the Demus check. That was a defense sword.
That was the defense sword, correct.
Yes, they got a package which led them back to Mist. I think it was in the Flame Dog chest.
Yep, you're right now.
But while we see our runners going through these gauntlet fights, I would like to go and take a moment to thank our support for who are allowing us to put on the show. We have Mecha on tracking. We have our, excuse me for a second, Bangagong on tracking as well, going and helping with these two matches. And we have Scalakitty as our restreamer. So thank them for going and helping us put on the show. And thank you for joining me on commentary, Y2 Sky.
Yeah, thank you, Baka. If I'm not running Free Enterprise, I definitely love commentating Free Enterprise. It's always fantastic watching the show that our runners put on for us.
I do believe we have seen the end of the Gauntlet on Clopper side, if I'm not miscounting. And that is through the check, and we get to go and see the, it's still going to be a blue hand going and crawling slowly towards our crystal.
Yeah, I think this gauntlet really kind of showcased. Tella is definitely an unsung hero in this flag set. You know, people think, oh, he's going to be slow compared to a fast hero. He's not going to have that much in-game power. I've seen a lot of instances where he has kind of provided that he fills in that niche need in certain fights, and he takes sketchy fights to doable. He takes good fights to great. And that's a pan in the first. That is a pan in the crystal room from the warp glitch.
Pan is definitely nice. We go and turn that down in the Sylph Cave. Don't get anything. The crystal that for the Zeromas we're not going to be fighting. That crystal that does absolutely nothing for us, unfortunately, but does bring us up one higher on
we can fight Zeromas now.
Unfortunately, we go to fight Zeromas, and Zeromas says, "I'm not up for it today. Just bother someone else."
All right. Now we see Clopper prepping for a run up the tower. Towers in Clopper does not yet have the tower key. Keyless Tower, always a source of contention among the runners. Some runners love it, some runners absolutely hate it. Yours truly. But K-Trap definitely changes the calculus. 4 trap chests, only guarded by an alert. If you can one-shot the alert for the tune of about 14 to 1500 damage, the trap chests are very, very quick here.
Yeah, and 4 quick checks is definitely a lot nicer than one kind of protracted long check they might just end up resending out of getting nothing for, other than the feeling of I wasted my time.
Indeed, being able to reset out of that if you don't find anything is a pretty strong play. In fact, I saw that when someone erased just last week, going up the tower, finding an item, but not necessarily the one they like, reset, and it turned out to be the big time save.
It's never fun to go and just drop everything you picked up, but it is quite helpful to go and just get that time back. And these runners are pretty darn good and pretty darn close frequently, so that time can really matter. Wherever people lose time, they are definitely feeling it.
Yeah, when you have these seeds that are giving you just a fully kitted out Cecil that's basically going to carry the entire game, what the race then really comes down to is those last few seconds saved with doing techniques such as that, like resetting when you should reset, walking out of fights you should walk out of, good routing, prioritizing your techs appropriately. Those are the things that will decide a race like this, with Cecil kind of going burr throughout the fight.
And one of the things we missed, because our runners are very quick to go and pick things up, the Sand Ruby was in the first trap chest of this tower. That is one of our objectives, so Cloffer and Noob Tree actually both have that, and they're both one objective away from being able to go and being in go mode, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, however, Noob Tree having the advantage of already finding the Adamant Rock, so that could come back to really weigh heavily in the outcome of this race.
Yeah, if the next objective found is, the next key item found is a Legend Sword, that is very big for Noob Tree. While Clopper will be really hoping for either the Tower Key or the Baron Key. And we do see Fly Eagles and Softnum going, both cleaning up Eblan Castle, so that means all of our runners have a fully online Cecil with a Crystal Sword at this rate. It's just going to go and start crunching through as many things as possible. That Crystal Sword is going to just carry damage for, well, the rest of the seed. I am struggling to think of situations in which the Crystal Sword will not be the answer to the fight.
Maybe Rubicante if they have to do the Mazamune altar. Yeah, that could, anything with counterattacks involved could be bad.
Yeah, that Masamune altar does have some pretty beefy magic power, and Rubicante really loves to have beefy magic power. Not even Dragoon Armor cutting that fire damage in half would be enough to go and make this not hurt. Speaking of making things hurt, this is a Mylon on top of the tower. And Crystal Sword, among being incredibly broken and incredibly high attack power, not quite strong enough, so it does bonus damage to undead. If this is Mylon Z, I think we'll see Cecil kill him in 2 hits.
Yep, and even Mylon and Friends is not too scary. It is a Mylon Z, but even Mylon and Friends was not too scary at this part, because the counter-lit ones are not going to really have the oomph to them that they do in other spots.
Mylon and Friends would have been the worst fight, just on virtue of you can't kill it in 2 hits. I have to take at least 5 swings and probably more, because yeah, that undead vulnerability, Cecil at level 1 can do 9,999 damage to a Mylon Z, just because of how powerful that holy and undead power is against this poor decrepit Lord of Earth.
Alright, blink and you'll miss it for the reward. I did not catch that.
I did not catch it either, because that was a very quick confirm. We're getting confirmation from Mechalink, one of our trackers, that was a Bahamut summon. Well, if we find Iridia that we want to take and level up, we can go and give that to her, but I don't think we're going to be worried about leveling up new characters at this point.
Yeah, you can pull off a slingshot at a few places, like Hairdryer's Chest, for example, but yeah, not a lot of opportunity at this point when you are digging into your past Dwarf Castle. You're starting to do some of the trap tests. Fly Eagles also took on that Demon Mr. Baron in Octomam and found the Adamant Rock as well. So the team on the left side has that Adamant Rock. Golbez and Golbez have both faded that Baron in, and that duplicate stiff.
That is a bit unfortunate if that Legend Sword comes up. If it doesn't, well, half an objective unfortunately doesn't round up, so it's still not an objective that pays out.
Yep, without a Legend Sword, it is just a rock.
But Softnum is also going and double-checking places they've gone, and it appears that Softnum is trying to remember where they need to go. I think they have forgotten about the Tower of Zot chest and are double-checking their locations. Meanwhile, we see Klopfer going and doing something we normally don't see in Free Enterprise, casting Float. Helps with these damage tiles, where if you walk over them, you just lose a bit of health. And with the number of damage tiles there are, you lose a lot of health over the course of this. So if you want to go and check the chest on the way down for a fight, that float will go and make it easier rather than coming back to the menu constantly each time you stand in front of a chest and wonder if there's going to be a monster in there. And having found the Warriors chest, they have come out to play, and Cecil is going to also play with the Crystal Sword. Class set is too strong for these Warriors, just not really going to be able to go and stand up to Cecil, it seems.
Indeed. Nuke Tree taking a slightly different approach. Hasn't cast Float, but allowed some of the, or may have cast Float now, but walked on the damage tiles to get the rest of the party, or get all the party to 1 HP, then healed up the Cecil. That is to allow Cecil to automatically cover all the other 4 party members, and Glass Hat on, Cecil's covering, so the Warriors will only ever deal 1 damage per attack.
As long as Cecil is not berserked, yes. Which will be interesting to see how that goes and ties out. Tella is in the middle. I suspect that Nuke Tree is going to go and rely on Stone to go and take out these Warriors rather than the berserk strategy Klopfer's employing.
Indeed, you gotta. I love watching runners play the Tella lottery in the center slot there.
Tella's low accuracy. He does have a Stardust Rod on Nuke Tree's side, if I'm not mistaken, so that should help the accuracy a decent amount. But it's always a guess, it's always a hope rather than a certainty.
Meanwhile,
and there's a Legend Sword in the free chest.
Woo! Yeah, now this just got really interesting.
King Blue Moon Dew is...
Yeah, once Nuke Tree gets down there, he's in go mode.
Yeah, and Klopfer is going to be going and looking for one more key item. Maybe Klopfer will go back and check that Baron Inn over some of the other locations down here. I mean, there's a pan, so if you get the pan, you get a tower key or a Baron key, and that will go and lead you to do those checks, which are unfortunately probably longer than the Baron Inn.
Yeah, and I think that's how Klopfer's trying to play it. Baron Basement's an objective, so he may just be trying to fade that until he finds the Baron key, and then just kind of lump the check in.
Yeah, which I guess that then comes down to, if you have the Baron key, do you do Baron Basement and skip something else like the Masamune altar? Kind of something you can make up in the sense that the Masamune altar is incredibly deep in the lunar subterranean, and speaking of incredibly something or other, Baigen in the Asura spot and Bomb Bomb in the Leviathan spot, both of these are incredibly fond of punching you in the face.
Yeah, oh goodness. Klopfer taking on that Baigen. I believe that Baigen's pretty doable with this setup here. That Bomb Bomb is rough. With no AoE to take out the 6 bombs after the explosion, you gotta hope that you berserk enough to get the extra 10,000 damage, which you can do with the Crystal Sword Cecil, but that's never a gimme in that spot.
No, it is definitely going to go and be a bit unpleasant, and Baigen's just kind of rude. Baigen's not super strong here and not going to be a guaranteed one-shot on everyone, but he's not going to go and be very fun to fight with those arms that will be regenerating and no source of AoE damage on this team.
Yeah, I think Klopfer opting not to berserk the Cecil here and just straight up using Fight Command on the middle. Pretty smart, because it does limit the arm regeneration and allow Cecil to cover, but just a little bit slower on the offense, opting to go more defensive, which with a fast anchor, that's the smarter play. You're not getting the turn that you would with an RA1 Cecil, so.
Yeah, an important thing to note here is that this Baigen is going to be incredibly fast compared to the team that any of our runners are going to be running. So it is going to be a battle of attrition here, and it is going to be a bit rough to go and get through. Cecil is in the back room getting blinked up, so it's going to go and be preserving their HP that way. But we're still going to be going getting some damage come through with those drains from the remaining arm.
Meanwhile, Noob Tree's side, Noob Tree taking on that Mom Bomb, no fear. Just trying to push all the damage through that they can. Cecil swinging for 3,600 Berserk. Yeah, as long as he doesn't get punched down, I think the Cecil's going to be able to handle it.
Yeah, the single giant punch is probably more manageable than the 2 or 3 smaller punches on Baigan, just because Blink negates 1 physical attack. Doesn't matter how much that physical attack is. If it's a physical attack from a boss, it's negated. And if you have 2 Blink casters, when Cecil only took 300 damage from that punch, that is definitely going to go and make it pretty manageable for Noob Tree to get through this Mom Bomb fight. Until we get to the explosion phase, then there'll be the question of how well is the explosion going to go.
Yeah, and again, under normal circumstances, you can pretty much rely on a Crystal Sword Cecil to get that damage and prevent that explode phase. But the agility setup here is not great.
Yeah, this is a pretty speedy boss. I don't know if slows have gone out on Mom Bomb, but we'll see. We've got several thousand damage. We've got about 5,000 damage at least. Exploding is just being said. Another swing from Crystal Sword Cecil, and Mom Bomb goes down. Noob Tree is through. Objective number 2.
Yeah, that is a big. That's pretty big for Noob Tree. In go mode already, has pretty much one of the toughest physical attack spots taken out. Yeah, he's clearly in the driver's seat in this matchup here.
Yeah, Noob Tree also has a chance to get a very strong weapon for Edward with that forge. Once this Baigan's taken down, I think we're going to see Noob Tree go straight and turn in Objective 5 with that Forge Legend. And maybe we'll see one of the very strong harps for Edward. And Klopfer is going into the Mom Bomb fight now. We'll see how well that goes for them, while Noob Tree is swapping to the Baigan fight. And Sofnum is also down in the Fey March, has collected that Legend Sword, but doesn't have the Adamant to go with it. And Sofnum is looking to be going down to the very bottom to get the 4 secret chests, get some extra money, it seems.
Yep, not a bad play if you're still trying to do some shopping and you're hurting for money. The waiting on the Fey March chests are very good and can give you a lot of money.
And Softenor's choosing, all right, I'm not going to go and take these fights now. I don't like how things are going for me. I'm going to go and do something else. And looks like Softenum is going to Sylph Cave. They may have the pan from that, the Sealed Cave, the warp glitch from Dwarf Castle. They may be itching to go and turn that in to see if that gives them an Adamant.
Yeah, I'm not sure if Softenum did dwarf and got that pan. I don't see it on the tracker. Yeah, so if this is just a Sheila 1 setup, the Sheila 1's definitely going to need to be an objective, otherwise that could potentially put Softenum a little bit further behind.
Yeah, that is very unfortunate. Did not do Dwarf Castle or the Warp Glitch, and does not have that pan, which we know is right there and available. So hopefully this Sheila 1 goes and gives something very helpful like the Tower Key or the Baron Key. If it's the Baron Key, it may lead them back to Baron Inn, as you've mentioned, so they can go and get that Adamant and accelerate their go mode a bit more.
Yeah, I think that's what we're going to have to hope for both runners on that right side at this point. You see, Noob Tree and Klopfer have now swapped boss fights, so both going to have the Fey March objectives done. But Noob Tree is going to be in go mode and completing objectives, while Klopfer looks to be more set up to potentially do a Sylph Cave dive. Probably not going to do the trap chest with this party. I wouldn't in his shoes. I would just do the Sheila checks and look to see if the pan pays off to anything. But still, Nutri and Go mode. I don't think we're going to see hand check from him though.
Yeah, that is definitely going to go in B. Nutri has no great reason to do that pan check unless there is some absolutely heinous boss in either Cave Bahamut or the Masamune altar. But that is Nutri with the second objective, with objective number 1 on the board. Their second objective completed. So,
and Sofnum just found the Baron key from Sheila 1 though, so this got a little more interesting. So
yeah,
so this is not good odds for this. It's Christmas land here, but hear me out. If Sheila 2 is Tower Key,
that is very good for Klopfer. That would be very, very helpful for Klopfer because Tower Key is going to be faster than Masamune Altar in almost any circumstance. There is a very small number of bosses who could go and be at that Tower Key spot that would be worse to see than anything at the Masamune Altar. And we have a Loki's Harp for Forge. Is Eddie going to go and be rocking out and just doing massive damage to everything?
I would actually love to see the Loki Harp in action. I have not had the pleasure of seeing it on one of my seeds yet, so I really hope Nutri uses it here.
It's a good weapon. It does bonus damage to everything. I don't believe it gives any stats. I think it's only the Artemis, or excuse me, the which one is it? There is a harp. The Apollo harp is the harp that goes and gives bonus damage to dragons. From you may remember that from Final Fantasy V. It is also in the GBA version of the game. And we do see Nutri turning in that Sand Ruby to go and have access to get a twin. I don't know if there's going to be any incentive to get that, as Sid is probably going to be more helpful against bosses than a unfortunately unleveled mage.
Meanwhile, Sofnum finding that Baron key made a beeline back to the Baron Inn. So that's going to help Sofnum kind of round out some of these objective item checks.
And that Loki's Heart might go and just be a good, useful tool for Sofnum. That is another power hitter on your team is always welcome.
All right, moment of truth for the Klopfer. Baron key, Rat Tail.
Not unfortunately what Klopfer needed, but the Baron key could go take them to Baron Inn, get that adamant, and Klopfer then has decisions to make as to whether or not to go through Baron to Baron basement or go to the Masamune altar. I assume Klopfer will be angling for Baron basement. They're not that different in strength, but Baron basement is certainly weaker, but it is also an extra fight you have to go through in, I believe it was the Jark Elf who gave us the starting item. So there is more options open for Klopfer, but Nutri already has 4 objectives done and is on the moon going to Cave Bahamut. Nutri's got a very healthy lead on Klopfer at the moment.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think it's going to take something just incredibly rude at that Masamune altar to really give Klopfer an out here.
Well, maybe this Golbez will also going to be rather unpleasant.
Yeah, Golbez can be unpleasant, but you can prepare for Golbez.
True. As we see team turn into pigs, which will go and prevent the paralysis from going and affecting the team, as there's a status priority system where if you're a piggy, you can't be paralyzed. Not necessarily intended, but helpful. But we will go and see 2 party members get eaten by the Shadow Dragon. And with the Edward hidden, it's not going to be Edward, but Edward might also not be the best person to have still standing.
Did I just see some Loki Harp notes come out on Fly Eagle's side against the Warriors?
I think you might.
Definitely impressive. Golbez also not super scary here. The magic power at the Bahamut spot is not incredibly powerful, but it's going to be irrelevant because not being paralyzed means Starbills can go up. But
True.
the Sid and the Cecil could have probably taken the virus at least.
And Golbez is weak to holy damage, and Crystal Sword is pretty good against that.
Yeah, what could really be on the table here that could slow Noob Tree down with the Masa Altar? Maybe Rubicante?
Conte, any big magic casting bosses, but we've seen Maga Sisters and now Golbez. Those are the biggest magic casters I can think of. Elements is not going to go and be... Elements would have a very bad day against the Crystal Sword or just some Reflected Fire 3s. Oh, there are...
Answer Firebird Lover's question in chat. Have we seen DKC yet? Yes, DKC was French Vanilla at the Mylon and Friends spot.
And also the correction for myself, Klutfer is showing that it was the Baron Guards who were giving us the initial item, so not the Dark Elf. I think that was mixing up with the seed I played for myself recently. And we have sped the gauntlet. It was at the Dwarf Castle. And we're seeing Loki's Harp coming out on Noob Tree's side as well. Nice 1600, another 1600 damage hit from Golbez back to himself with Lit 3. But I think this Golbez is going to be going down pretty quickly. 4000 damage from Cecil. That's a very nice thing to see. And Klopfer is not opting to go straight to the basement, and instead going to take out the boss on the Baron Throne. That Soft Thumbs has also done is the Vanilla Kenatsu. The party is actually pretty close to vanilla for this as well if we had the twins instead of Edward and Sid.
Yep, and Rosa too also. Unfortunately for Klopfer, that does take another somewhat difficult boss out of that Masamune pool. Kenatsu would have been rough there too. But he is at his normal spot on the Baron Throne.
Yeah, and even a vanilla Ogopogo is still going to be pretty darn manageable. Just Crystal Sword Cecil, Rosa. It's gonna go and be hard to go and have a real speed bump for Noob Tree as Noob Tree completes Cave Bahamut objective 3 done, one objective left in order to go and win.
Thofnum completes Baron Castle also, but is now heading down to Forge and is going to find that Loki Harp.
Loki Harp is definitely a nice item to find, but it's, unfortunately, Team Blue Moon Dew is certainly making good use of theirs, as they are definitely hitting a lot of things. And Fly Eagles is back in Feymarch. I'm guessing they are going to go and be taking out the Feymarch bosses, as they know they are in go mode, and it is just... Excuse me, they are not in go mode. They do not have the Sand Ruby, so they are still looking for things, but I think they're going to go and do whatever bosses they can at this point, as they have a pretty strong team.
Yeah, Thofnum now has his Loki Heart. Meanwhile, we're going to get our peek at the Baron basement from Klopfer. That Adamant Rock's still not lit up on Klopfer's side. Looks like he may have bypassed the end and went straight for liberating the castle, going for that basement.
Oh, that is... I mean... Baron Basement is technically go mode. You don't need to go and get the Forge. We just know it'll be quite fast, I think. Yes, they will be able to complete... Yeah, objectives 3, 4, and 7 to get up to their 6. And this Dark Elf is not going to go and stand up very well, as Cecil with a Holy Sword is going to do a lot of damage. But Noob Tree is at the final save point of the game and is just screens away from the Masamune fight, which there are very few things I can think of that could be in that fight that would take down Noob Tree. Noob Tree has got a very, very strong party. But we could go and get that Rubicant you have been foreshadowing all seed, and Rubicant is a very scary fight in that spot.
Scary but doable, even though you may not want Cecil swinging away and getting those magic counters. If you can time things right, Tella's Ice 3 still does a bit of damage when that cloak is open.
Yeah, that's definitely going to go and be pretty okay. And well, Valvalis is a pretty decent fight to go and be stopped by. But I don't think we're going to go and... Yeah, even Edward is hitting through this spin for 1300 damage. Cecil is probably going to do quite a bit as well. Blinks will be able to go and mitigate some of the worst of it. Weak coming out on Tella. A little annoying, as Tella is a great person to have up for this fight to cast Blink, but not all by all means necessary.
Yeah, Val very manageable here with this party. You've got 3 good damage dealers, you've got 2 blink casters, leveled enough, not a problem here. Nuke Tree firmly in the driver's seat now.
Yeah, and Klopfer is forgoing that Baron in and is instead going up to the moon to go and do those 2 fights that we have seen Nuke Tree complete. Meanwhile, Fly Eagles is in Sylph Cave going and hitting up the trap chest.
Yeah, this is an interesting play. We're still looking for the tower key, but this is not a strong Sylph Cave party. You still have to wait for your melee fighters to kind of clear through things. Fun fact: if you don't clear them fast enough, yeah, you can mute the Fire 2s, but for the second round, Ghosts hunt.
Yeah, the Ghosts will, I believe they cast Fire 2, Punch, and then try to go and cast Sleep. They're going and alternate between casting a spell and trying to punch your party. It is... Yeah, there are some punches coming out, and those punches are not actually all that tame. I saw 400 damage on Sid on that top front row.
Yeah, this is a real very real thing that could alter the outcome of this race because, yeah, the Sylph Cave will take time to clear with this party setup, and but again, the tower key could come out of it, but it could also give Softnum enough time to kind of catch up on checks here.
Yeah, we know that Sand Ruby is just at the bottom, I mean, one of the first chests in the Tower of Lower Babel. You can go and get, just to go up there, hit the 4 trap chest, and oh hey, there's a Sand Ruby. Wait, that Sand Ruby can go and put me in go mode. And off you go.
Yeah, and Softnum right now taking on Dwarf Castle. So it looks like he's wanting a little bit more level. He didn't quite go in that Baron basement. Maybe looking for more levels before taking on the Vending fights. And also just trying to find the key item.
Yeah, it's knowledge that the Leviathan spot is very, very strong and very, very punchy for a boss that's not supposed to go and throw any punches. So I can see people being a bit hesitant to go there. But speaking of hesitation, Noob Tree has none, as he is through Valvalis, and he is the first person to finish and is the winner of the race between Noob Tree and Klopfer, bringing 1 point for the team. Congratulations, Noob Tree.
Yeah, very well won race.
Yeah, that Baron Inn definitely went and gave a significant advantage with just having the Adamant, getting a Loki Harp, and just being able to go through those fights faster.
You know, Softnum making his way through Dwarf Castle. This is also both runners on the bottom are kind of doing things that could, in theory, steer them away from the objectives. If you find the wrong key, item or something that takes a while, like that hook, you could spend some time chasing that hook. Softnum's going to get the pan from this, which now we know Sheila 2 doesn't really have anything.
Sheila 2 had the rat tail, if I'm not mistaken. I believe there's a rat tail found at some point.
Okay, so that could still, in theory, turn into the tower key.
Yes.
But again, we know it's not the direct path.
Correct. We know that the Lower Babel definitely has a final objective for our runners. But Softnum will go and get a pan from that warp glitched sealed cave check. That will be enough to go and... Well, still not enough, but we'll go and help push our runners maybe towards that Lower Babel.
And meanwhile, we are joined by our winner of the top race, Noob Tree. Dutry, that was a very, very well run race. GG, sub 110. Fantastic time.
That seemed, Jetty felt rough at the go.
You're coming in a bit quiet.
Oh, can you hear me now?
You're still a little bit quiet for us, I think.
All right, let me adjust. I'm sorry. How about now?
That is a bit better, I think.
And how about now?
Much better, much better.
All right, thank you. Sorry, I am a bit of a noob when it comes to audio.
Well, you're not a noob when it comes to free enterprise, as you showed in this race. You had a very, very nice run. How are you What were your thoughts when you saw that starting team?
I was like, I was thinking that this is pretty. There's a lot of good utility here. I can hide if I need to. I can exit if I need to. Very great for fighting. And then saw that Darkness Crystal start, went up and got Cecil, and I was like, okay, I just need a little bit to go at the very beginning, and boom, we are on our way and doing damage. And then it blossomed from there. It took a little time to get started, but it felt great after seeing the three that I had.
Once you got going, you most certainly were going hard. That, I mean, the Crystal Sword Cecil was most certainly a helpful person, but who would you consider the second biggest workhorse of your team?
Probably Tella. That putting him in the middle to cast Stone for some of the larger fights that I didn't have AoE damage for, and proccing the first time on both attempts, I was super happy with the Skull and Staleman chest in Eblan and the Warrior chest in Feymarch, getting those off. So he carried a lot, taking some damage when he needed to faceplant and putting up Blink and Berserk whenever I had him. So Rosa's great at what she does, but Tella this seed was the MVP in my eyes.
Tella is definitely a great character in these flag sets. Seems like as well, just my taste. How do you find yourself reevaluating characters without Zeromus as a thing to consider?
Well, you look at what they're able to do in the overworld, the underworld, and on the moon. Like what bosses are going to be where. In some cases, you have Odin in a tough spot. If you get a fast enough Eddie, you can do Thunderstruck if you've got a Moonveil or some Blinks up. Tella is just, he's going to get you in and out of places. You might have to go to Ordeals if you don't have a Warpcaster, but he's your movement guy. Sid, I've learned from Martin Broadcloak. Put some power gear on him, get him some lit bows and lit arrows and a good bow, and you can take tower chests, one-shot all the alerts there, so you're getting a lot of chances for key items. There's just so many different things everyone can do without focusing on levels and going to Z and putting out that damage.
Definitely seems like you've been showing out a lot of that. Well, once you get Crystal Cecil, there's less room for the more niche strats, but you definitely showed putting a lot of the Tella to good work. Edward went and was part of the team for a good long while.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely MVP on Ordeals. When I saw Pildim, I was like, oh, this is going to be quick. And it, just level 10 Edward putting out a casual 3k damage on one shot. You expect it.
Just, normal Edward things. But this is a nice solid win for your team. How are you feeling coming out of this match?
Well, this was my first game in the Elixir League, so getting a start into tourney season for me with a win was great. Helping out the team feels even greater, and I'm having a lot of fun learning things from everyone. Simbu on our team keeps coming in with some clutch strats, telling us about different things about the game. Eagles Fly, and Blues Eclipse are improving massively and showing us things that I didn't even think of trying sometimes. That's, just the way it goes when you work with a team. You see things that you don't normally look for yourself, and it's just so much fun seeing all the banter go on in the Discord. So it's lovely. I'm ecstatic to be in tourney season.
I'm glad you're enjoying it. YG Sky, do you have any questions for Noob Tree?
Just a couple. So Nooktree, I think you were the first one to kind of discover that mother load of shops in Troya. Was that your standard route you've been doing in practice, or did you kind of audible to a different money making and shopping route in the early game?
Troya is my first stop shop in most of my routing. There are a few things here and there that are like, with little nuances here, I'll check other things, but I always swing by there to see what's available. And it just, like you said, it happened to be a mother load. I was just like, oh, cool, yeah, Artie Bow, and hello, Glass Hats. Well, nothing's going to take me down in the first few fights. And it was, yeah, from there, it was like, wait, where's the bow? Where's the arrows? Where are the arrows? That was the only thing I was struggling with at the first part.
Yeah, definitely paid off for you and set you up for a fantastic run. So y'all planning on changing up anything as far as your preparation for week 3, or are you kind of sticking to what you're doing?
I'll take a look at the VOD. I know there were some mistakes I did make, especially with I kept trying to land on that one part of the forest over by Agert, and I don't want to do that again. But yeah, definitely looking at my routing to see how I can tighten things up. Obviously, Rando's gonna Rando, but I think with the fights, my practice has been paying off pretty well, especially today. Everything seemed so smooth, and other than that, just look to my teammates and say, hey, what do you see? And listen to their input and hopefully improve.
Sounds like a winning strategy to me. GT Nooktree, and I'm definitely looking forward to seeing you race the rest of the tournament.
Absolutely. Thank you all, Baka Shinobi and Y2 Sky for comms, Bangagong and Mecha for tracking, Scarlet Kitty for rolling an awesome seed. Everyone else in the community, you're amazing. You're beautiful. Stay beautiful.
Thank you for putting on such a great show for us. It was a fantastic race to watch.
Anytime. Hope I put out more for you.
Thank you and good luck in your future races. And with that, I do believe we're joined by Klopfer, who finished in 1 hour 59 seconds. GG's Klopfer. That was definitely a race to be run.
Hey, thanks for the GGs. Yeah, it was definitely a fun one. You're always a little happy to see the get the guy in the seed like this. Gives you that offense and defense you need to get through. Well, some kind of mean stuff the seed did throw at us there. That was a punchy Fate March.
That Fate March loved to punch. I have one question that I asked your opponent, Nooktree. How did you feel when you saw your hero and your starting companion?
Well, I'm not sure if he knows my routing, but immediately I felt, ugh, let's see who else is in this seed. And we went over to Hobbs and found Sid, who was good enough. And if we didn't find someone good enough on there, we were immediately going up to the Lunar Throne. So I guess I was really happy to have 2 other character checks available to me right away, seeing what we had there. So definitely Eddie's a kind of painful hero. He's, unless you find that spoon, just not the strongest, and he's really fast too, so it can make a lot of things challenging. Thankfully, Cecil really solves a lot of those problems he ends up bringing in.
Yeah, Cecil is definitely a real workhorse for that scene. And second question I asked your opponent, I'm just curious your opinion as well. Who would you consider your second most valuable member on your team? After your
I actually end up being Tella there. Just all that utility he brought. There was a lot of blink spamming. The actual ability to have AoE let us get through that alt gauntlet faster. It still wasn't super fast, but we actually had some AoE so we could get through that. Rosa was definitely nice as another white mage, but Tella was just around for a longer period of time, just doing more of that utility.
That's definitely a great answer you don't have. We have, that was definitely a fair amount of stuff done. How would you go and mentally break up that seed of, would you think of it as before Cecil and after Cecil, or before Crystal Sword and after Crystal Sword?
It was the before Cecil and after Cecil, which is before it's like, okay, we don't have the most power, but we have enough to clear through some early game locations. Let's go ahead and do that. Oh, we have Cecil. Okay, we've already seen Excal for sale in shop, so worst part is we'll go ahead and buy that. But let's go ahead and do Evelyn to get the money to buy that and see what we find. And then we just find all the swords we could possibly need in Evelyn Castle, and then we're just off. So it's like, all right, we probably still want a little bit of experience just to get his HP pool up before we take on some harder boss locations. but we're set. We can go take on the rest of the seed at this point. So let's just find our key items and go.
Yeah, that was actually quite a bit of a shift from the start, I have to agree.
Yeah, it was looking like it might be a bit rougher of a seed, but no, the power ended up being there, so we were able to get through things fast. Except power shirts, I did find those. I'm not sure if I just slipped over them, but they were the one thing that was missing for all the power you could possibly want.
That would definitely be even more power overwhelming for.
I wasn't going to be greedy and be too upset about not finding them, though.
But yeah, that Fey March. Did you have any hesitations or fears when you went into that?
There definitely was a groan as I walked into the room and see the two bosses we had to deal with. But again, I just knew it wasn't going to be terribly fast because I had to kind of get set up in safe ways before I could say Zerk up Cecil, or against Bigan I didn't even Zerk him up at all. But with him so well equipped and at the decent levels I was at, I knew he could cover and get through all of those locations, so we just had to take the fights a little slower and we'd be able to get through them. And each of them went fine and kind of the way I expected them to. So again, it's just, fortunately, we were given Cecil, and that's the tool we needed to get through that. Just our offense when we need to have him doing that, and he also provides great defense when you need it through cover on those very punchy spots, of which this flag set has a lot of.
How do you feel about the shift away from the Zeromus fight now that, punchy spots have been brought up, where there's a bit less of an emphasis on being able to deal with the magic damage of the final boss, but instead physical defense being a fair bit more, shall we say, relevant as you stay throughout the seed?
Yeah, I'm really enjoying it for just how different it's making these seeds feel to a lot of other ones. Pretty much, whenever you have to fight Zeromus, that's just always going on in the back of your mind of, all right, am I set yet to take on Zeromus at the end of this seed? And so you have to do that. It means you'll grind early, you'll be looking for magic defense gear. Certain characters just aren't as good because they can't contribute in that hardest fight at the end. Usually the hardest fight. Without that, we start caring about physical defense a lot more, especially because of our set objectives here with the both the Feymarch spots, Value Cave, and even the Ogo spot. All those are punching hard enough. We really care about this physical defense. Rydia becomes great. You don't have to get her to nuke levels for her to contribute through these hard fights. You just have to go ahead and buy Bahamut, and then she's actually great in this flag set. So it's been a lot of fun. I really been enjoying playing this just because of how different it ends up feeling.
I'm certainly glad to hear that. Why Sky, do you have any questions for Klopfer?
You did a great job of covering it, Baka. Just one for you, Klopfer. Talk to us about that Baron Inn fade. Was that something that was kind of in the plan early on as you kind of peeked and saw it was there? Or did it kind of just materialize on its own as some of the other checks opened up?
So the initial fate of that, and I was thinking of going back, was that it was Sid as our character, and we already had him in the party. And what I was looking to do was fill up my party a decent amount, then take on some trap chests. I was actually, when I went up to pick up my character on the Lunar Throne, the plan was to then also open up hair dryers and take that on. But since I was given Cecil and he was still Dark Knight form, I didn't want to go ahead and do that at that point. I wanted to get him into Paladin before I start earning the experience for the party. So mostly we initially faded Baron in because, okay, this doesn't help me build up my party. My goal right now is get characters into my party, take on some trap chests for experience, and then we'll just start going through our key item locations as fast as we can. Once we had gotten Cecil online, found that crystal sword, it was in my kind of top tier locations to go since it was 2 key item checks with the D-Mist hanging out there. But I had other 2 item or more checks available, the Tower and Dwarf Castle, and I ended up preferring going down to Dwarf Castle because again, it's gave me 2 key items. It actually gives me a chance for another character, which could be helpful. I wasn't super hurting for a character, but it was an extra plus for Dwarf Castle, and 2 key items with Warp on Tella. And I really want to get that XP so I could single dip Feymarch, go in for our trap chest, our key item there, and take out the bosses at the same time. But then really unfortunately that Dwarf Castle had the alt gauntlet, which I really wasn't happy to see. But of course once it's in the second spot, you kind of feel committed. You've already put in the time to get through that first location, watch a bit of the cutscenes. So we stuck through it and unfortunately it didn't pay off. If we hadn't found what we needed, more or less from the pan turn-in, Baronin was the next stop, effectively. We were just doing all of our 2 or more key item checks that were nearby as we were flying around.
Yeah, it definitely makes sense, and normally it's a sound strategy, just in this particular case, it just happened to rando you. That's the game, though.
Yeah.
Otherwise, though,
Rando's
very,
gonna
very
rando.
impressive run. Yeah, otherwise, very impressive run. Both you and Pooptree flew through the seed. Definitely wanted to go kind of watch back, and as I was talking about earlier, it's one of those seeds where, okay, yeah, you have Crystal Torch Cecil Dover, so then a lot of the little things end up deciding the race, and those make for great watch back to go and kind of see those little things you can kind of improve on week to week.
Yep.
I may already know the answer
that.
to this question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. What is your thought process going into week 3? Unfortunately, coming off a loss. So does that change? What you want to do as far as preparation for week 3, or are you just going to kind of stick to our game here?
I've been pretty happy with how I've been going through these seats for the most part. I definitely plan to watch back the commentary that will be on display here. I know is just going to be top tier. So getting that, hearing what people are saying about how we're going through this, taking that feedback in, that might go into how I play the next seed. But for the most part, I think I'll be practicing the same. In fact, actually, probably my practice will be shifting towards the Moonveil mixers. We're getting close to that, and I haven't done nearly as many of those seeds as Potion Party, so I want to start also getting ready for that.
Very cool. So that's all I have. GG's Clopper. Looking forward to the rest of the tournament with you and the rest of the Golbez law firm.
Thank you very much. Do very big call out to the entire Restream team here, restreaming the trackers, the commentary. A lot of work to put this on, and it's always a lot of fun to watch the shows you do. So big thanks to everyone involved in this, and good luck to our runners still going.
Thank you for going and putting on a great show for us. It was fantastic to watch. Well, that was Klopfer, the second place finisher of the top race, and we still have the Fly Eagle versus Soft Num race going. I believe both runners have everything they need to go and get through all the objectives, but are going and probably seeing if they can go and pick something, maybe pick up another key item somewhere to go and avoid one of the spots that seems a bit sticky for them, as I do not believe either runner has gone to finish the Feymarch King or Queen fight, and are instead looking around in other locations.
Yeah, Softnum made several attempts on the Feymarch bosses while we were in interviews. Became pretty apparent that he may not have picked up glass hats, or maybe just didn't put the glass hat onto Cecil. Cecil was taking some pretty hard punches from both the Mom Bomb and the Baigan, and just wasn't able to hold up through the fight. So yeah, that's prompted him to go and look at other checks.
Yeah, that is definitely, I mean, defense and a lot of free enterprise. It's like, defense, the only defense I need is killing enemies. I can go and get through a lot of these fights without that, but in some of these punchy fights, those glass hats in the back row can make a very big difference, and just be the difference between getting through and getting pounded into the dirt, unfortunately. And Baigan, with those 3 bodies to attack with, definitely does a lot of pounding into the dirt if you're not fully equipped for it, and it is just very rude to deal with sometimes.
Yeah, and this is really highlighting one of the major strategy aspects of this flag set is kind of, setting when you're doing the shopping, you really want to set yourself up to have flexibility in these situations where, okay, you have a very rude, very physical pair of bosses in the Feymarch. So yeah, you need your glass hat. You need all the defense items you can muster, maybe even at the cost of some of your damage. You may be in a situation where you can't heal as effectively as you'd like, and so all of a sudden, picking up spec buying those 5 or 6 tier 3s could save your run. It's very interesting. I know I've definitely I've always kind of like started even questioning myself, watching some bots back and being like, wow, why didn't I pick that up? I should have picked that up. When at the time I'm thinking, hey, I want to save money. I know there's a crystal sword out there. So yeah, that's one of the great things about this flag set is it's just introduced things that tournament runners have not really had to deal with in the past.
I agree. There's, having played some practices myself, it is something where the lack of treasure from chests, so you can't just naturally accumulate some useful items as you wander through, like dragoon armor, the glass hats, wizard hats, maybe a sorcerer robe. Those things become big major purchases, as each time you open a chest you'll get thousands of gold, sure, but those shops can sell things for hundreds of thousands, tens of thousands, if not hundreds, close to hundreds of thousands. So it is definitely very interesting to see what our runners prioritize and where those prioritizations go and shine through. And speaking of prioritization, we see Fly Eagles is prioritizing bring up the team with life potions to go and keep going through the Skullbez fight, as nothing is going into killing a character outright if they're not at low HP, but most of them are unfortunately at low HP after being taken down by Golbez.
Yeah, it looks like the main team, or the two that were left up, are the power couple, Cecil and Rosa, and we're just trying to keep Sid and Eddie afloat.
Sid will definitely do his best to help. Eddie does have that Loki harp on Fly Eagles Fly, so that is Eddie does not go and get a lot of stats, but that weapon is quite good at making Eddie helpful. And we do see Softnum is coming back into Sylph Cave, maybe looking to go and do some trap chests, go and get some levels on this team to help with that Fey March.
Yeah, when you're really having issues, the Sylph Cave and the XP from the trap chests in it can definitely bail you out.
And that is objective number 3 done for Fly Eagles Fly. Just needs to go and complete 2 more to go and get the 6 objectives. Still has the 2 Fey March fights and the Masamune altar. Be curious as to see which one Fly Eagles Fly decides to go for. And a note, the spoiler log played from Noobtree and Klopfer, and we did see that the tower key, the 8th objective, is in the Giant. I don't think our runners are going to be running into the Giant to grab that, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's just really, at that point, that's just going to be, Eagles or soft numbers going to be just thinking of that as, okay, I'm feeling way behind. I'm just going to make this keep play and hope to get something. Typically, you'll see runners do it if, Darkness Crystal comes.
I'm sorry, I need to go and shout this out. Softnum showing off the very, very niche tech of Frog Song. What is Frog Song? Well, a command we don't see from Eddie at all usually is the Sing command, where he does a random status element. Unless Eddie is a frog. If Eddie's a frog and equipped with a harp, he sings the Frog Song that turns things into a frog. I'm sorry, I had to shout that out because I have never seen that done live in a race, and I, for one, love it.
Oh no, don't apologize. I was today years old when I learned that you could do that. That is fantastic. I have been playing this game for literally over 30 years, and that's the first time I've heard you could do that.
It is. When I say niche, there are many niche things you can learn playing Free Enterprise, but it's very hard for that to come up in a race, and I am just absolutely tickled by seeing that.
Yeah, that's fantastic. But back to the tower key. Yeah, you're not really. So you could see that last arm play being made if Darkness Crystal was paying more in the mid game, and runners already kind of have a party behind them that can go and take on that last arm enemy without too much trouble. But and you kind of heard this in Plopper's interview. In the situation we were at, getting that Darkness Crystal starting item, we're just going up there to kind of grab that third character and move on. We don't really have what we need to do the hairdryer chest or blast arm. So when that happens, it's usually, unless we really need to keep digging for key items late in the race, that's usually a hard fade at that point.
Yeah, that just seems like it can go and be very, very awkward to ever go and think of, because it's one of the things with this flag set is there are a lot of trap chests on the moon. However, they are not included in the key item pool because the moon bosses are not included in the key item pool. So that goes in how the flag set works. It will go and exclude, if the moon bosses are not included in the key item pool, then the moon trap chests are not included in the key item pool, and will make things a bit kinder and a bit less cumbersome for our runners, as there are quite a number of trap chests on that moon. Or, excuse me, in the lunar subterranean. The lunar path and the giant are still options.
Yeah, so unfortunately, other than experience, Softnome's really not going to see anything of value from this Soul Cave. Doesn't have that rat tail yet from the pan turn in, but that only became, I think, an illusion. So, yeah, we know this is leading you to nothing but rabbit holes unless you just take the XP and start trying to take the boss on again.
Yeah, and I didn't see what was behind the tower key, but there could be a chain behind the tower key which will go and keep our runner, keeps off them from more rabbit holes. But yeah, I think right now Softum just needs experience, while Fly Eagles Fly is going and getting through this Valvalis in the Masamune spot. Looks to be going and doing quite nice damage, and is just going through that fight. We got Crystal Sword Cecil, we have Loki Harp Edward, and we have 2 people who can cast Blink and 2 people who can cast Berserk.
Yep, and looking at those HP numbers, Eagle's also ahead on levels. So, yeah, Softum's really going to have to kind of hit the afterburner here if he wants to catch up. Definitely the point where he can just get this XP though. I don't see him really chasing any I don't see him chasing anything with that hook. Just by virtue of the fact that he's already liberated Baron Castle. So it's just 5 boss fights left for him.
True. Yeah, it's just going through all the fights. Just unfortunately, as you mentioned, those glass hats were such critical tools for getting through that very punchy Fey March.
Yeah, this seed definitely highlighted the value of the glass hats by far.
But as wild is, lives up to the name of being kind of wild. There are so many things you can buy, so many things vying for your money. It is very easy to go and think, I shouldn't buy this thing. It's nice, but I don't think it's nice enough to be worth my money over, say, that Crystal Sword, or that Avenger, or that Artemis Bow. And the Artemis Bow, the Crystal Sword, they're all great. Crystal Sword we found somewhere else. But that offense is really nice, really good. It's a great feeling to be able to go and get through those checks fast. It lets you go and get a lot of speed going. But also, that glass that lets you just endure and keep going and just get through some things you shouldn't be able to get through otherwise on the back of just that raw defense. And sometimes slow is fast, where defense might not be what's going in when it being the bosses, but it is what's letting you get through the fight long enough to beat the boss.
Yeah, pretty general advice I get in any game when you're attempting to speedrun it is first, don't die. Then do the thing fast.
Not dying is pretty good for going and doing damage and a bunch of other things. I agree. It is, from my MMO experience, how do I become a better DPS? First rule, don't die.
Don't stand in the fire.
Do not go and assume that standing in the fire will make the numbers go higher.
Not to get too off topic, but did you learn like the School of Hard Knocks MMO where a death meant 30 minutes of 30 minutes of corpse running, or was it just like a quick jaunt as a ghost back to your spot?
I played Ultima Online. Do you know what happens when you die in Ultima Online? You drop your stuff. And anyone can take it.
Ooh, anyone can take it. Yeah, that I haven't experienced. I have experienced everything you have done for the past like 2 years of your life is here in the spot where you just died.
Mm-hmm. I also played good old Final Fantasy XI and EverQuest, and did not get super far in both those games. Still got less far in Ultima Online, where once I discovered, oh, I'm not going to have everything I own at all, am I? And quickly stopped playing that game. I don't think I even lasted a month in that game.
Brings new meaning to the term hard reset.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, that was a learning experience game.
And speaking of experience, Fly Eagles Fly has a lot more of it now that he has cleared the moon objectives and is now heading back down to that Fey March. I would not want to be Mom Bomb and Vigan in Fly Eagles Fly's world right now.
Yeah, this is unfortunately going to go and be pretty mean for, well, the other side, because I think we're looking at level 40 Crystal Sword Cecil with a glass hat and enough HP to survive a bunch of punches. I don't think Mom Bomb is going to do well, though maybe Baigan is the one who's going to go and get the firm introductions to Crystal Swordery.
Meanwhile, the numbers seem to keep growing on Softnum's side, taking out those ghosts. So Softnum is getting set up to get there eventually. But yeah, as we mentioned before, the Sylph Cave with this party it can be a little bit of a slog.
It is. I mean, multi-enemy fights are anything that casts spells will take a while. Anything that goes and says, "I'm casting a spell, let me try and cast a spell." Oh, the animation isn't playing, but I'm still going to go and try and cast a spell and wait for a bit. It is definitely, unfortunately, a real solid way of chewing through time. Sylph Cave it's a real commitment on these flag sets, because in other ways of playing Final Fantasy IV, you may not have the restrictions of the hero who is very fast, so you can go and get other party members, like the Palom we know is in the bed in Kaipo. Palom learns this fantastic spell called Quake at level 23. Really good at dealing with all these ghosts. Just wipes the enemy party very quickly.
Indeed. One thing on Fly Eagle Fly screen that I like to see, making use of that illusion from the Rat Tail turn-in, using it on Eddie so a blink cast can be spent on different party members, or the turn can be spent healing, as Rosa just did there. Really like when runners make the heads-up play to kind of use like the one-offs that they found on their journey.
Yeah, without G items in shops, there's a lot more to consider when spending your J items. So using that early on in the fight to keep, Eddie's a pretty big damage dealer. 2,800, that is just killing Baigan here. Didn't really have much of a chance to go and fight. And those early turns can be crucial. So keeping Eddie around for those, great heads up play for Fly Eagles Fly. And that is once we get through the level up screens, the Fey March King is down, and Fly Eagles Fly has their 6th objective completed.
Yep, that'll do it. Being able to do both the Sand Ruby and the Baron Basement means veto that nasty Mom Bomb. So Fly Eagles Fly finishing to be with a time of 1:44.29. Very well done by Fly Eagles, especially with that rude set of bosses down there.
Yeah, and unfortunately Softnum is going and turning in the Sandery, but still has a lot of bosses to get through. Still, this was definitely... It was a seed where our runners could showcase their different knowledge of what things do I need, what things are going to go, what are the weaknesses of my team, what are the strengths of my team that I can leverage. Nutri and Clopper definitely did a very good job of showing off how strong those glass hats were and how strong Crystal Sword Cecil is no matter what. And Fly Eagles Fly and Softnum have been going and putting a good show of just different techniques they can use to go and get through these seeds. Okay. And Softnum has gone and forfeited, which, no shame in that. This has definitely been a long, grueling seed for our runners, and I don't blame anyone for, I have lost this race. I have to go through multiple kind of rough boss fights. I think I'm going to go and say, okay, I'm going to take a break. I'm going to go and step away, and we'll see what we can go and do afterwards. So congratulations to all of our runners for putting on a great show, and we'll see if anyone is who's coming in next for our interviews. All right. I've just been informed that we'll be getting Fly Eagles Fly in to just momentarily. But again, great race. Go, and shout outs to all of our runners. They put on a great show for us. Lots to go and see, and be sure to go and follow them. And we are joined by Fly Eagles Fly. GG's on your win. How are you feeling?
My hands are all sweaty, just like on this run that I just had.
This question I'm going to lead off with, I've led off with everyone else. How did you feel when you saw your hero and then your second character?
I was feeling good as we were talking setup. I was saying, hey, let's go team 90 HP, Edward and Rydia. And I saw Edward start. I was like, oh, it's leading towards Edward and Rydia. And then I saw Tella, and I got excited because now I have exit. So it made me a little bit happy.
Always good to appreciate the exit. Tella's exit is a fantastic tool to have, so the appreciation of it is great.
Yeah,
How are you feeling early on in that seed then?
I felt pretty good with this seed. I think like when I first went down to fight the king, seeing it was Mom Bomb, I should have just went right for the queen for Baigen to start right off. Could have gotten done a little bit faster, but I was afraid that I might have not been too fast. He might have been too fast for me to be able to beat him, even though I had the equipment to take him out.
Makes sense. The short response very fast, and I got 3 hits, so it's definitely something that I can go and see as a very important consideration. But after that fight, or after seeing that Fey March, what were you really starting to look for then afterwards? For what were you planning to go and focus on after that? You decided that you didn't want to go through the Fey March right away.
Seeing like the objectives we had, the things that I was looking for the Baron key and the Tower key. Figured if I get those 2 key items, those were what I was really searching for, then I wouldn't even have to go to Fey March to fight those 2, and I could just knock everything out on Earth and then head to the moon to take out the last 2 objectives.
Makes sense. What point did you feel that it was better to go and stop searching for the Tower key and instead go and just take some fights on the moon?
Right when I got the Baron key and in the bottom of Tower Bubble, when I got the Baron key and then fought the boss there and seeing that I didn't get the Tower key, my mind was like, all right, I got the pan, let me see if I turn that in. And then right after I didn't get really anything except for the rat tail, my mind's like, hey, try the rat tail one more time just to see if you got the Tower key. If not, head straight to Baron to take out the basement, and then head straight to the moon to knock out those 2, and you should be high enough to be able to take out Baigen and avoid Mom Bomb.
Definitely a sound plan for that. As you're going through the seed, a question I've also been asking, after you got your Cecil online, who did you consider to be your second most valuable character?
Second most valuable character at the time, like I had 4. I was looking at Sid being my second most valuable character. He had like the Artemis arrows, but I just didn't find the bow for him. But at least like he had what I needed. And then going underground and doing Dwarf Castle once Rosa got there. So now I was like, all right, now I got my healer that can heal a lot more and 2 people that can cast Blink or Berserk on my team. So just finding Rosa down there, that was like, all right, great. Now I got Rosa to help anchor the team and help out.
It was a good choice. The white mages are very helpful on these flag sets. Just having a healer throughout those protected fights can be pretty helpful. So you've got another win for your team. How are you feeling for after this week and going to next?
I'm actually on my team. We've already talked. We have planned out. I'm actually off the next week, so I'll be playing week 4. But looking forward to my team to continue on what we're doing. Like we all been basically talking to each other, practicing with each other, and improving every seed that we have done. And it's just like great. Like having Noob Tree that's like letting us know, like, hey, awesome job improving as like our team captain, just like rooting us on. Even when he was sitting out last week, he was like getting us all like hyped up, ready to go. And just seeing like us taking on Golbez, and Golbez, I had to reach into my inner Seinfeld and call out Jackie Childs to say, "Hey, I got this team. We're going to defend them."
Glad to hear that you're having such a strong experience with your team. It's wonderful to hear. Watch Sky, do you have any questions for Fly Eagles Fly?
No, I think you pretty much covered everything. Yeah, Eagles, you gonna change up your practice routine for the off week, or you kind of just gonna kind of stick to what you're doing?
Hey, I'm gonna try to change up a little bit of practice routine, like try some different routes. Like each time I've been doing a new seed, I've been like trying something different. Like been working like with some of my teammates and seeing what they're doing and trying to add it in on my routing. So like I said, I've been improving by like a minute each time. And if like on this one, if I would have knocked out Baigen first before doing what I was doing instead of fighting Mom Bomb, I could have easily gotten another PB in this potion party. So it's very interesting and just looking just to probably do a couple more practice runs before even on like my week off. So just to get ready for week 4.
All right, very cool. Well, I'm sure I speak for all of us in the booth and in chat when I say really appreciate you putting on a good show for us, and I'm definitely looking forward to seeing you race more in this tournament.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to keeping on racing and can't wait till once we get out of the potion party and get into the Moon Veil, because that's what I'm normally used to.
Well, we're
Yeah,
looking forward to see your future performance.
Thank you.
And GG's to Fly Eagles Fly. Let's have a question to go and ask our restreamer. Okay, I've just been informed that we're going to be going to Free Enterprise 1 for a raid for another race in progress. Please feel free to go and join us for the raid, but do not go and share any spoilers for the results of this race. People may be very interested to know see that for themselves on the VOD, so don't spoil any parts of the race, but please let them know that it is a good one.
indeed. And before we go, I do give one final shout out to Baka Shinobi. I very much enjoyed sharing the booth with you tonight. As always, Scala Kitty working behind the curtains to give us a fantastic show, and to our trackers, Mecha Leak and Banger Gong did a fantastic job keeping us in the know. And also to our friends at RPG Limit Break for giving us a cool channel to run on tonight.
Yes, thank you very much, RPG Limit Break, for going and hosting us. It is a great time to go and have a show on your channel. And thank you, Y2 Sky, for joining me for commentary. It's a fantastic time doing commentary with you. Also, thank you to our runners, Noob Tree 87, Klopfer, Fly Eagles Fly, Soft Num. Thank you all for being fantastic runners and helping us put on a show. Well, just before the raid hits, thank you all for watching, and I hope you enjoy more Free Enterprise. Have a great evening.